Hi, students. This is Mrs. Von Maxey, and this is just our reading today of Edward the Emu. We read this together on Monday, just in case you couldn't come. Here is the lesson that we did together. For third grade, we learned about perspective, about character feelings. And then in second grade, we were going over story elements, which were character, setting, theme, and plot, beginning, middle, and end, the things that happen in a story. So those were the things to keep in mind as we go ahead. And one of the first things that we did was predict, what does Edward look like in this picture? I'll give you a moment to think about Edward, the emu, on the cover of this. So this, before we begin, this is written by Sheena Knowles, and it is illustrated by Rob Clement, and this is one of my most favorite books of all time. So I'm very excited to share it with you. So here's the inside picture to kind of give you an idea of what might be ahead. I have a very wet emu balancing a ball on the end of his beak. Here we begin. Edward the emu was sick of the zoo. There was nowhere to go. There was nothing to do. And compared to the seals that lived right next door, well, being an emu was frankly a bore. Doesn't look like he's too. Think about his perspective. So that night when the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward jumped from his pen and laughed as he said, "The seals are the best anybody can tell. So tomorrow I'll just be a seal as well." He's willing to change. Find out. That's a very interesting illustration. The next morning at 9, when they opened the zoo, the seals were swimming, and Edward was too. He dived in the water, he basked in the sun, and he balanced a ball on his beak just for fun. They are definitely pondering each other. Wow. Edward was really enjoying the day till he overheard someone behind the fence say, "The seals are always amusing, it's true, but the lion's the best thing to see at the zoo." So I'd like you to make a prediction about what's going to happen next. So that night when the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward jumped from the pool and smiled as he said, "The lion's the best anybody can tell. So tomorrow I'll be a lion as well." I love this picture of the seal. He's got a very confused look on his face. Give you a moment to take in that illustration. It's very powerful there. The next morning at 9, when they opened the zoo, the lions were worrying, and Edward was too. He snarled at the ladies and growled at the men. Life was certainly grand for a lion in his den. So again, Edward's still looking on trying to find the right person to be. Take a look at that photo. They're snoozing away. Well, Edward was having a wonderful day till a man in the crowd had the gumption to say, "The lion's a beast I shall always detest." This guy doesn't like lions. "The snakes are the thing I like to see best." That's an interesting photo. He's awfully brave. So that night when the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward crept from the cage and grinned as he said, "If the snakes are the best thing, and that's what they say, then tomorrow I'll just be a snake for the day." So let's think about how Edward is feeling, keeping that in. Whoa. It's a little too close for my comfort. The next morning at 9, when they opened the zoo, the snakes were all hissing, and Edward was too. He slipped round the rocks. It was magic to see. Then he curled himself casually up round a tree. definitely quite comfortable with these snakes, even just taking a snooze with them. And this one is so big that the head doesn't even fit on the pages. Well, Edward was just warming up for the day when he overheard one of the visitors say, here we go again. The snakes are impressive. I know that it's true, but the emu is by far the best thing at the zoo. Oh, so think in your head what's going to happen next. He seems to be quite happy with that news. The emu, gasped Edward. My goodness, that's me. I'm the thing that gentleman most likes to see, not the seals, the lions, the snakes, and the rest. It's Edward the emu he likes to see best. So that night, when the zookeeper went home to bed, Edward slipped from the cage and laughed as he said, if the emu's the best, well, that's easy then. Tomorrow, I'm Edward the emu. So he's finally coming back to being himself. Make a prediction about what's going to happen next. If you haven't read the story, you'll be surprised. Uh-oh, there are two emus. So think about, why would there be two emus now? Edward ran to the place where he used to reside, but oh, what a shock when he clambered inside. He found himself suddenly come face to face with the emu they'd brought in to take Edward's place. He was gone. They're like, oh, he flew away. You got to get a new emu. Can't have an empty emu. Here we go. See how this goes. Don't think that they have any kind of conflict there. The emus considered each other for a while. Then the new emu said with a shy little smile, hello, I'm Edwina. It's nice meeting you. You're the best thing I've seen since I came to the zoo. So that is the end of our text. So third graders, I'd like for you to consider, how did Edward's thinking and feelings change from the beginning of the story, when he's quite bored with himself, to this page, when he's very excited to see that people are happy with him just being him? And my second graders, remember our setting is where the story takes place. So in this case, it's the zoo. The main character is Edward. There are a lot of other characters, but Edward is the main character. There are a lot of things that happen in the plot from the beginning, the middle, and then the ends. In the beginning, wasn't happy being himself. He visited all kinds of animals. And at the very end, he went back to being himself and also adding a friend. So the theme of this book is what the author is trying to teach you. So before we leave, I'd like for you to take a few minutes on your own. What kind of message does the author want you to learn? And not just Edward, but also you in your heart. Give you a moment to think. Do you think the author wants you to think that it's okay to be other people? No, Edward tried that. I think the author is trying to show that it's best when you are being yourself and that people will like you for you just being you. So that is Edward the Emu. The wonderful thing about Edward the Emu is that there's a sequel, and it is called Edwina the Emu, and about their journey a little bit later on. We'll share that book at another time. But otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to reading with you again.